Good evening, Facebook family and friends, YouTube family and friends. I am Sheba. I am your happy bug, and tonight, once again, we're here on Talk Tuesday, and we have a very controversial conversation about to take place this evening, and it was one of those topics that was requested by one of the listeners because I'm not really sure what his because was. Let me say that. But it was one of those conversations that I actually never thought to bring to Talk Tuesday. But I try to honor all requests because you never know who's going to need the answers to those questions that ponders in their mind. So when we come to Talk Tuesday, we come here to have a good time and to learn new things and enjoy each other. So tonight we have Mia. And we have Miss Tawana, and we're going to, and hopefully we'll have a couple others to join us along the way. And we're just coming here to enjoy this conversation about who eats first. And I am not opposed to either side, whether the male or the woman, the man or the children eat first. But in my household, the man eat first. So we'll talk about it as time goes on, and we're just going to give the ladies the floor. So Mia, you can open our conversation this evening, and welcome.
I always have to remember to unmute. I am so excited to be here. My name is Mia. I always tell people my birth name is Manishka. But based on, my level of comfort of whether you're going to butcher my name or not, I always say, just call me Mia. But yes, my mother called me Manishka. But for me, when I saw this, and I responded immediately, did I not, Bathsheba? I was like, I would say the children eat first. So I'm a marriage and family therapist. So it's very, a lot of the things that we have been taught in the ways that we were reared from the baby boomers generation. So I've had this robust conversation about the generation war, right? So we are living in a time where there's 5 generations coexisting, that everybody did things differently and everybody thought their generation was better than the other generation. So there are a lot of practices and things that we started doing just because it's what was taught to us. And so I'm from the Y generation, right? I'm going to ask why for every single thing. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being rude, but I always say my ancestors paved the way for me to have this voice. They paved the way for me to be able to ask these questions. I don't have to be the docile field worker anymore, So yes, I have all of the whys and I need an answer. So a lot of some of the things that maybe my mom used to do, I don't necessarily do them anymore because I understood the why. Spanking is one of them. I don't spank my kids. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so the children get fed first because I'm under the impression that, first of all, we're supposed to be eating at the dinner table. So that's how I was raised. So then I don't have to address the issue of who eats first when we are all sitting at the dinner table eating. And, granted, maybe dad has a different schedule, then of course his food will be put away and he'll eat when he gets home, or you know what I mean? But there's a place in the Bible, the children are our first assignment, honey. So if we listen and we take into consideration that they are our first assignment. Now, yeah, there's a whole part about marriage and leaving the home and, fathers, the men have to do all of these things and criteria when they leave the home and when they find a wife. It doesn't specify the woman's role. I mean, besides obeying her husband, there's a lot of controversy on the biblical aspect of it and then the logical aspect. So yeah, my strong position is that the kids, are going to eat first because they're young. They don't understand that they're just hungry, right? They just need their immediate need. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, shelter, food, that's all they understand right now. So me getting lost in the sauce of me needing my husband to eat first, like need to eat first, there's a difference. Like there's variables. But I need to make sure he eat first in regardless, I love that word, regardless of what the children needs are. You're grown, you're an adult. I think you can hold out a little bit if that is like on the table, right? If that's like a deal breaker because I don't feed you first. And so you about to flip the table, like you mad, you're an adult. So I hold adults to a higher expectation than I do children because, first of all, their frontal cortex is not fully developed. So when this child came into this world, they didn't know anything. They are empty vessels. You are pouring into them. So everything that you are modeling is a behavior. They're watching you. So I am for teaching and embodying and molding that child, so that when they do become an adult, they're productive and they're full, because the parent is what gives them what they need in order for them to go out in the world and be full adults, not half adults, looking for somebody to fill that other half of them. Two whole people get married.
Let me ask you a question. Is it a matter is the matter of feeding the children first because it's a matter of not enough? Because I think sometimes when people hear the children eating first, I think a lot of times people hear drought. And I think as people, we're naturally thinking in a droughted state of being in our mental. Because if the children are eating first because there's a drought, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Because
but that's going back to slavery.
So hungry. But is that
right?
Is that so it goes where you think that like kind of come from, where people are so kind of against it?
But it goes back to the why. When did this practice become embedded into our culture, and why? So yes, it goes back to slavery, where it was very important for you to divvy up the meals based on what you had. And so because the death rate and the ability for the child to survive on less food was different from the adults, they would feed the children. Or it might be in a household where whoever was working the next day might get fed because they have to go in the field. So there are multiple reasons as to where this theory came from. Like, we don't know the origin, but I know it has changed over time. It fluctuates. But I definitely think a lot of everything that we are as Black people in this country stems from slavery. I mean, people don't realize when they're like, oh, we're not slaves anymore and it doesn't matter. But we are cultured people. We pass things on from generation to generation. We hold our customs near and dear to our heart. So we are definitely living out some of the practices and protocols put in place during slavery in 2020.
Okay. The reason why I asked you that question is because I think I have, like, for me, my husband or my man I would always play this food first. That's just who I am. I feel like it's a level of honor for him to be the first to eat in the home, especially if he's the sole provider. Now, whether or not he's the sole provider, and he's just a provider, even if I make more money as my man, that to me is my honor to him. Now, people might look at that a little bit differently, maybe because their situation is a little bit different. Maybe they have a man they don't see that way. Because I've had some women say that to me. Like, I'm not feeding him before I feed my kids. He ain't this and he ain't that. Well, you're chosen. So then it becomes the matter as to if that's how you have to feel about him, why you have him in your life or your children's life to begin with. So I think when we think in perspective as the drought perspective, as you did state, because we're coming from those times where people are still thinking like the slave mentality has so many of our people of melanin feeling and believing and thinking. And I'm wondering at some point, is that may be where that whole value, that honor became so solid and so needed, because they went through such a drought for so long where they didn't have a choice but to feed those children first, because they had to divvy it up, as you stated, and they weren't able to, they didn't know how much was going to be left. So the parents would be the ones who eat less, or they didn't know who was going to be out working in the fields all day. So make sure that person gets enough food so they can have enough energy to make it through. We're not there anymore. So I think, yes, the children, I understand why people feed the children first. I get it. I do. It just always makes me wonder. This has been an argument I have read on Facebook so much till I just pass it. I don't even want to hear it anymore. So when it came to me, I was like, man, I don't want to have to deal with this, because where does it come from? Like, why? If the honor is for the man just to feel honored, it's not that he's going to get more food anyway because he requires more food. But we're not drowning. We have more than enough. So why wouldn't I feed him first? Now, if he's at home, I'm agreeing with you. I wouldn't make the children wait to feed him. No. But I bet you what, I'm putting his food out that plate first. Those pots, his plate coming out first. I'm going to cover it up and put it in the microwave, and then I'll feed my children. I'm always the last to eat. Well, now I'm older, and now my children are older. So they cook and provide for themselves because I'm teaching them self-sufficiency. But when I was the person in the kitchen, that was the way that I ran it. And I wonder why so many of us here drought. It's almost as if that we're not going to be able to feed the children. And why would you feed him when the children need to eat? Because that's saying that you are going to give him more in spite of the children being hungry. So that's where I was kind of coming from with that question. And that was really solid, because I didn't really, truthfully, Mia, I never thought about it from that perspective. So that was a real solid perspective. I love it. We're going to continue to talk. So let's give Tawana the floor, and it's your turn, Tawana.
Hey, everybody. My name is Tawana, and I have 4 children, 2 adults, 2 kids, I suppose. Second marriage. I've been married in my younger age, and now I tried it again. And now I have 2 kids from this second marriage. Who should eat first? In my first marriage, my husband ate. I mean, not my husband. I'm sorry, my children ate first. I had the mentality. I like you said, you honor your husband. And that's the way that you can show him that you honor him. And at that moment, I love my kids more. It had nothing to do with me feeling like I didn't have enough food, because we had enough food. I wanted him to know that my kids was important. He needed to know that. So he would sit back and wait for me to fix my kids' food, and I would feed them first. This was my first marriage. I would feed them first, and then he would come to the table and I would feed him, and then myself. I've always eaten last as well. I didn't see a problem with that. I thought that was the way it was supposed to go. But 2, he wasn't the sole provider. We were. We both worked. We both did whatever. We split the bills in half. I don't think I valued him as a man at that moment. And I don't know if I could have, because I was really young. So I probably didn't know any better. I don't know what the reason was. But I don't know if I valued my marriage or my husband as much, or knew how to as much as I do now in my mature age.
Okay.
Now in my second marriage, my husband, he works hard. You know, he comes home. Well, when he is home, he eats first. His food is on the table first. And then my kids, and I fix their food, and then me. We all eat together, but he's at the table first. And that's just because I honor him, and I want him to know that he's important, that him going out working, and I'm not working right now. I haven't been working since the pandemic. I've been home. He recently bought me a new house. So it's like the honor that I have for him now is way more, and it has nothing to do with the new house. It's just the hard work he put in to make sure we get it, even through a difficult time like we're having now, or some of us are having now, because all of us aren't. So I just wanted him to know how important it is, you know, for him. So when he comes home, he already knows how it's gonna be, you know. So it's just a different situation for me. I was raised the way that I'm doing with my second marriage, that's the way that I was raised. My grandma raised me, and my granddad worked hard every day. And when he came home, granddaddy ate first. We all ate together, but granddaddy would have food. I mean, the plate would be pounds. Where, you know, like granddaddy can't eat all that, but it was never, I never had a situation where it was like a drop for us where we had to eat or nobody eats, you know, like the kids won't get anything but the leftovers. Although I've experienced it in my family, you know, my family have, you know, experienced that, but I was fortunate enough not to even have that. But my mentality now is from my grandma raising me. You know, she honored her husband, and I honored my grandfather. I thought he should have been the one that ate first because he worked so hard. So I think that when it comes to tradition, that kind of trickled down to me in this second marriage. So it's tough, but and my kids respect it. My children, they respect that. They know daddy gotta eat. They have nothing to say. They know they gonna eat too. And they know mama gonna eat too. So, and everybody feels like he's important in our household. So, you know, I think it's just a different way you look at a man, and it has to be a man. It can't be somebody who doesn't honor you as well. You know, if he's not making you feel honored, you're not gonna make him feel honored. In no way. Especially, I don't care. You're not eating nothing. I got something for you. You know, there's some leftovers in there. You can go on in there and eat. You know what I'm saying? But that's the man who doesn't take care of home. But a man that take care of home, his food gonna be on the table.
I like that. We do have some questions and stuff from the audience. Something is going on with Facebook tonight. And so when I got to share the link for the actual page, it didn't come up as a normal shared link like normal. So what I did was I had to do it as a watch party. So I'm getting questions, but I'm getting the questions on my watch party. So I'm going to share them with you guys.
We lost Tawana.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah, we were so I was telling everyone that Facebook has something going on with it, so I had to share this as a watch party. So I'm getting feedback. We can't see it on our page because it's coming up on my watch party. So I'm gonna read it, some of the stuff that people are saying. So we have Crystal who says that it's to honor him for her as the head of the household. So that was one of the things that we did kind of talk about a little bit earlier. And my Uncle Ty, he said, I felt bad when my ex-wife used to feed me first. So I practiced allowing her to feed the kids first. And then I served my ex-wife to show her that I appreciate her for cooking for all of us. And that to me is very solid. Crystal came back to say, I do feel like it says a lot about how you feel about your husband. And let me add that it doesn't mean that you love your children any less. And then we had a shalom. So shalom is peace. Peace be unto you. So shalom from a sister Leora. And we had someone that said we got some good shit. So this is some good stuff. And then Miss Leora come back to say that I was raised by my aunt and my uncle was always served first, but we all ate together. And it, you know, it kind of takes me to something that you said, and I'm going to give you guys back the floor to Rana. You said that's if he's a good man. And I think that a lot of us as women, and I don't know why we do it. I don't know where it comes from, but I think it's something that environmentally we learn. Because if we had good grandparents, good fathers, there should never be a if he is not good enough. But I think because of the environment that we're around, there's a lot of people who didn't have whole households, like maybe many of us did, or maybe many people. So to honor someone that you have a total respect for, it kind of goes without saying. So those people, and I think some people who didn't, they don't know any better but to do exactly what it is that they do. But in my ideology, he's a man, whether he's a good or bad one. It doesn't matter what kind of man he is, if we choose to be with him. Because sometimes we deal with guys who are less than in our minds. But we've chosen them, the whole family hate him, and we stay with him anyway, but that doesn't make him any less a man. It just kind of means that he's not that man that you expected your husband or your boyfriend or your significant other to be. So in that regards, where does that put a man who is less than in a household with a woman who don't solely respect him? Why shouldn't he eat first as opposed to the man who she respects the most? So I'm going to give you guys back the floor on that one.
I just want to go back to, I didn't get I was just listening, and the consistent theme of me feeding him to show that I honor him. I'm like, I'm gonna shift in my seat. Because for me, it's that is just a very simple way of acknowledging that you honor him. And I think in the past, the best way that we could have done that was by providing him with his plate first, right? Just thinking about the narrative of where we came from versus where we are right now. Because a lot of people, that's a blanket statement of saying, oh, I'm just showing it as a way of honoring him. But we don't, just like we talk about, we don't live in that time no more. There are definitely other ways to honor your husband. And so if that could just be one way, but it can't be the ideal way. And I think people get caught up in it being the ideal way. Because even what you said, that Sheba, that your uncle turned it around and he served her. And so unfortunately, with the whole machismo and the macho aura, whatever, some men wouldn't dare do that. You know what I'm saying? So then it becomes, how do you honor your wife? So there are so many sides to this story, because if it's about honor, then the question is, it goes both ways. Like, how are these same women feel that they are being honored within their household? Because are you now just projecting? Are you just feeling a void of honoring him because you feel the lack of honor in the home? Are you trying to just kind of like create this space where you're projecting what you need? Because ask him, what will make you feel honored in this household? Because I bet you it won't be, oh, I just need to make sure my plate of food is ready first. So it's about having those important conversations about what we need now versus what we did back then, just because it's where we were. But now we can absolutely have a conversation about the grand scheme of what it looks like to honor my
husband. I like that. And I'm gonna hold on. I'm texting the guy that was supposed to come on. Hold on.
I want to jump in, Mia. I think that is, yes, you're right onto something. That's wonderful. You're right. I never asked him, how would you like to be honored?
Mm-hmm.
He just seems so happy to have that darn plate. I just make sure he have it. And you know what? He is the real cook in this house, not me. I barely cook. And my first couple of years married him, I hated him for that. Because I'll cook. That's my thing, And he came and he jumped in my house and he took my kitchen. Okay. And I didn't like it. But he and when he cooks, he fixed my plate first. And he fixed the kids' plates. I don't know why. I never asked that. So that's a good one, Mia. I appreciate that. I'm gonna ask him.
Okay. And I'm gonna make a comment. But I'm gonna bring Leon on. Hi, Mr. Leon. How are you?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
We're doing pretty good. So we're going around we're going around talking about the topic at hand. So I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to make a response to something Mia just said to us a couple minutes ago, and then I'm going to offer you back. I'm going to offer you the floor so that we can get your perspective on who eats first. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So it was really funny what you said, Mia, because I have a brother. Oh, what happened? He hang up. Hold on. He thought that man hang up. Come back. Hold on. I think he meant that man hang up. Okay. So, there he goes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Mia.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, I said I thought you thought that meant to hang up.
No, I don't know. I just lost. It just kicked me off.
Oh, okay. Okay. So a friend of mine said, you know, a lot of women make the mistake of never asking her man what makes him happy. And that shit was so solid. When he said it to me, it kind of fucked me up. Because I was like, damn, you're right. I never asked him what makes him happy. I'm just, I guess I'm gonna be a little selfish in that regards. Although I do want to know what makes him happy. I've learned that the more that I do to make me satisfied with what I feel makes you look happy, if that makes sense, I'm satisfied enough with that. For me, let me explain. I love watches. I have a thing for them. I think they're beautiful, and I love to see them on my man's arm, right? So I meet a man who loves watches. And I'm definitely gonna make sure that I put a watch or two, maybe 3 or 4 on his arm, just for satisfaction. I indulge in what made me happy, even though he loved it too. So that's how I found my satisfaction. So for me, it's an honor for me to feed my man. And bet nobody else ever feed it. And I'm real deal serious about that. He better not eat off of nobody else's plate unless we at the restaurant. And that's how I really feel. I sit at my man's feet. I give him pedicures. I do his manicures. I do his facial. And don't bet nobody touch his feet. Not even a Chinese lady don't want to touch them. Nobody better not do his nails. And nobody better not give him no facial. Don't pull no hairs on his face. So
Oh God.
that becomes my territory. So me, food, and it might be what's important to the person, like deeply. If a man don't feed me, like I had a guy I was dating, he came to my house with food for himself. I didn't want to be fucked up with him no more. And I was real deal serious about it. It was something about that chicken. And it wasn't just because it was chicken. It was the fact that he showed up with none for me. I would never show up to him with no food for him. So like food is like that nourishment. It's like that body's like it in my mind, it does something for the body. It's a nourishment. So if I can't provide that to my mate, outside of other things, I feel like I'm no good to him. So that might just be a thing personal that a lot of women don't realize is might be their personal situation that they're feeling. So that was real solid. What do you feel to be honored? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're gonna give Mr. Leon the floor. So the topic tonight, Mr. Leon, is who eats first. What's your take on that?
Who? Say that again.
Who eats first?
I mean, it depends how you. It depends how you say it. Like, I mean, the kids. Of course, the kids come first. You know, like I said on the statement on the text. If I'm in the desert and I got a kid by me and I got a cookie, I'm gonna give it to him or her. He or she comes first. You know. But I mean, it's some guys out there gonna eat first. They eat and have the kids eat later. But it just depends on I don't know. It depends on the mom and the daddy. I mean how how the mama is. Some women take men over their kids. You know.
I like that perspective. A little bit earlier, you missed the first part of everything. One of the biggest things that we talked about was is it that people feel that there's a droughted situation? Because when you make the statement that you're in a desert, that's a drought. That's I don't know when I am going to eat next or when we are going to eat next. So in that situation, yes, the children will eat first because you want to make sure they have enough energy, right? So
Right.
is that the ideology that we're going with, that maybe the children should eat first, or
What what
are you just one of those guys that feel the children should eat first?
it like I said, it depends. Eating first, it just depends what how you say it, what predicament you in.
Okay.
Okay, if you're talking about, okay, the kid's been home all day and the man been working along, been working hard, and the kids didn't eat yet, but you come home, the kids could have ate all day, but as soon as you come home, you don't work hard and you want something to eat. It's a different perspective how when they say the man eat first, who eat
Mm,
first. It just pretend what about the kids being home all day and you come home working, like I said. Um, yeah, I guess it gonna be a mad because the man gonna come home, he gonna want his food. Yeah, he gonna want to eat first because the first thing he gonna say, man, y'all been playing and bullshitting all day. Y'all could have been ate. You
yeah.
know? So, I mean, it just pretend. Sometimes when you say, well, when the kids eat first, I don't know if you mean like I said with the desert, or if I got to. They don't have to be the desert. They can just be in your house. The kids. You always gotta look out for the kids. You know,
Right.
but just
I
it
think
just
that's kind of
how the statement is, or what if the kids eat first by you loving the kids, and you supposed to give your kids your last, like that, or or with the job thing. It could be either kind of way. It can be all kind of ways of what you mean by how if the kids or the man eat first, who eat first.
okay.
Okay.
How
So
you put it.
for you as a person, you come home. Just say you come home from a long day at work. You guys have
Okay,
more than enough food. You guys have more than enough food. It's no drought. You're not in a desert. Your wife went shopping or whatever the case might be. There's more than enough food. Your wife cooks dinner. What do you feel necessary for the children to eat first, or yourself, Mr. Leon? You hear me?
oh, I'm sorry. You talking? I thought it was somebody else's turn. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah,
No,
okay. I okay, yeah. It just pretend. Okay, if the man been working all day and the kids been home all day, yes, the man should eat first because the kids didn't
okay,
eat so many times with snacks or whatever. Okay, in the same way, it should be the other way around. Okay, if I've been home all day playing
okay,
PlayStation and the kids be at school, the kids be at school, they gonna get a little snack. It ain't gonna eat. They ain't gonna have no food at school like they have at home. I prefer, yeah,
right,
the kids come on. I say the kids eat first. So
okay.
it goes both
That's
ways.
solid.
Whatever, who home all day and who ain't home all day.
Okay, I like that. That's actually a really good perspective. That's another strong
Now,
point
I'm
to
sorry,
look
if
at it from
everybody,
that other way.
I'm sorry for cutting y'all. If it's a holiday and everybody home, wake up at the same time and go to bed at the same time, then everybody sit at the table and everybody eat at the same time.
Right. Okay. I like that. I don't even have a solid rebuttal because I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think sometimes as people we don't think about things from a perspective outside of the way that we're used to looking at it.
Right,
Um,
right.
so rather for me per se, whether the children has been home all day or the mate has been home all day, when I go in the kitchen, I'm plating his food first. Now how fast they eat their dinner, or how fast they eat their lunch, or how fast they eat their breakfast is on them. But he's gonna, and then I hope he's sitting at the head of my table when I feed him, because that makes me feel satisfied to see him sit at the head of my table when I feed him. But everybody's a little bit different. Which
So
is
I'm
why
a,
this is one of those subjects, because you just never know exactly where people are coming from. And I knew it was going to be a touchy one to touch. So I'm actually happy that you guys came on. So thank each of you, as a matter of fact, for coming
I'm
on tonight. Go on me. I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to read some. We have a lot of stuff coming in on the watch party that we can't see. So
I'm
keep
gonna
going,
I'm
Mia.
gonna I'm gonna go back to a statement that you just said, which is so important. Like I said, I'm a family therapist, so this happens a lot with couples, right? When you say I love watches, I try to find a man that love watches, and I'm gonna shower him with watches, right? So this is what happens when people. So I always tell couples, if you don't know what your love language is, you are operating at half mast, right? So, there's this book that's called The Five Love Language, and it's just something to
Mm-hmm.
help the process along the way. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
100%, but you have to start somewhere, right? Because this relationship is not for the weak. For you to commit to somebody, be in a relationship, have children, it takes real intentional practice. You got to be diligent. You got to be ready to put in the work. But so often
Mm-hmm.
people aren't willing to put in the work. They think that they can give their half ass and then expect greatness in return. But just as much you put in that 9 to 5, you put into your relationship. So the very
Right.
first thing you need to do is acknowledge what is your love language, right? So for me, I am a words of affirmation and acts of service, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need to know what your significant other's love language is, because it may be important to you to feed him first. And that has nothing to do. That does not fill his love tank. At the end of the day, he's thinking like, Leon just said, hey, it don't really matter. I mean, the scenarios may vary from time to time, but it's not that
Mm-hmm.
important. So if you don't know what their priorities are, what their love language is, you could be feeding them all of this. So let's say, so quality time is one, physical touch, so there's 5, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
I am a words of affirmation and my significant other is a quality time, right? This is what often
Right.
happens. I am sitting up there, hey baby, you fine. Oh, I like them shorts. And oh, you handsome. And I'm giving him all of these compliments because I am giving him what I like. I'm giving him
Correct.
what I like. His love language is quality time. He want me to go sit with him on the couch, and I don't want to. I got to fold clothes. I have to wash. I have to iron. I can't fathom sitting still. But that is what is important to him. So it's very important for me to take a step outside of myself and
Mm-hmm.
bring myself. That is what it means to sit at his feet, to understand what his love language is and what he needs and how his
Mm-hmm.
love tank is filled. And so now that I know that when I sit with him on that couch, he feels like the whole world has stood still, right? But what
Right.
often happens is that we give them what we like. So if I'm a
Correct.
words of affirmation, I'm sitting up here showering him with words of affirmation, and he like, I don't want one more compliment. It's okay. You can keep that.
Right.
This is what's going through his mind. But if we don't ever have that conversation, at the end of the week, this is when the arguments start to become, because the person doesn't feel loved because we're not
Correct.
speaking the same language. So it goes back to who gets fed first. It doesn't matter, because if you're not speaking the same love language, you're thinking that you're doing this and I'm honoring my husband and these are all of the things that I think he wants and needs. But I've never sat to ask him, nor have I done the work and the research to find out what fills his love tank, and vice versa. It might
Right.
last a couple of years, but let me see you 10, 20 years down the line when y'all operating on empty.
I wouldn't totally disagree with you. I agree with you actually totally. However, to me, to pay attention to him and maybe to ask him more of what would really make him happy. Like, I wouldn't look for a man that like watches because I like watches. I just happen to find one that love watches. And because I love watches, I get the joy out of him loving them too. So to me, that makes me satisfied, and I'm happy to see him happy over something that makes him feel happy. That might not be his whole totally thing, but I'm still going to feed him first, whether or not that's what makes him feel satisfied. Now, there go Dave, to be better about asking our mates, hey, Dave,
Hey, I'm here. Sorry I'm
Hey,
late.
it's okay.
All right.
To be better about asking our mates what would really make them feel satisfied is really important too. And I think a lot of us do miss that one up because we're never thinking about that because we think that that one simple thing that has always made us feel like a woman, if that's, you would say, because I think we're taught that coming up. We're taught to cook and clean and to take care of home because that's what a woman does, assuming that's what our man really needs. And I agree. He might not really need that, right? But for me, I would be more cognizant. And by the way, I do own that book, The Five Love Languages, because I've heard so many things about it. Um, but I will be more cognizant of asking for that. But at the end of the day, for me, food is really most important than anything else to me. I love to eat though, so that's probably why I can't lose any weight. But mine
But
gonna eat
notice you said to me,
first.
it's to you.
Yeah,
And you just have to have that conversation. That's what you value.
yeah. And he
So
gonna
it might
eat
not be
first too. But I'm with you. Like I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm not gonna knock you on that one. But we had Dave just join us. Welcome, Dave. It's so great to see you, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
You're right. So we're talking about tonight who eats first, and we have had like a really this has been really good. So Mia here is our family and marriage counselor therapist. We have Tawana, we have Mr. Leon. So we're gonna give you the floor, and then we'll kind of get back in rotation as to who eats first. Like in your ideology, what does that mean to you?
Okay, now this is it's a tricky one here now because I grew up in a single parent household. However, my mother didn't. So, I saw both, my grandfather and my grandmother pretty much as that nuclear family for me. Now, with that being said, I've always seen my grandfather eat first. Always. Now, as a kid, you don't really, as a kid, you think of it as, okay, well, yeah, granddaddy's supposed to eat first or whatever. But now as an adult, I see it totally different because as a provider, in my perspective, my opinion, and how I deal with my son, I always make sure he eats first, Now, and as far as the preparation of the meal, the woman, she's going to prepare the meal, and she may, make my plate and set it aside, or whatever. But I'll always make sure that my son is sitting down, or he's in front of his iPad, he's in front of wherever he wants to be with his meal in front of him first, before I would actually go in the kitchen and get my meal and sit down. I don't require plate setting and all that. I don't require all that. So, but it's a tricky dynamic because, in some households where the family, they do sit down and everyone eats together, it could be a different perspective. As the male sits down, he would assume that his plate would be set down first. In some some ethnic backgrounds and some different, culture is different, so I could just give it as far as my perspective and what I saw growing up and how I feel right now as a man with a child. I don't remember the last time that I've ever required my meal to be prepared before my child. And that can be at a family function, at a picnic, a barbecue at the Chuck E. Cheese. I'm gonna go to the buffet and make sure he has his meal. He's sitting down, and then I'll go handle my business. But you know, some men might feel differently, but you know, I can't question how they feel, because as I said, it could be something that's connected to culture, or you know, their ethnicity, and you know how they were raised. But I don't know. I was raised that way, but I feel differently when it comes to, you know, the care of my child. You know, it's always me as a provider. I want to make sure I put him first in a lot of, you know, those situations, as far as meals, and you know, I'll make sure everything is situated for him first, and that's just me.
That's really great. Thank you so much, Dave, because we've had, I guess we've had a pretty even puncher around the table tonight, which is really good, because Mia is our family therapist, and she said that she was always the why factor. Like, why does things have to be this way? And we know a lot of parents just kind of give you this reason why things should be, and then we never really have a solid answer as to why we're doing things a certain way. So Mia also referenced that about the book called The Five Love Languages, and how we just don't really ask if that's what makes our man feel honored, because that was one of the things that came across the table tonight too, that as women, a lot of women feel like we're honoring our man when we feed them first. And I know your perspective is a little bit different too, because you're raising your son, which is very amazing, by the way. I think that's great.
Right. So yeah. So you know.
And so.
But
So
I
I
understand. I understand, and I respect that perspective as well. Like I said, the woman is preparing the meal, you know, and like I said, my meal could be prepared first and set aside. You know, at that point, you know, it's up to the man to make sure, okay, all the kids are gonna eat first. But then again, another perspective you can look at is, what if a man is in a home where the kids aren't his kids? You know, does that heighten his level of wanting to be served first in a lot of cases, opposed to, you know, his own seed? So it's a tricky dynamic when you know, it's a real tricky dynamic with that. And at that point, it's all on the man as an individual, what type of person you are on the inside. Whether you know, women are, you know, nurtured, you know, but men, we have to understand that aspect as well. You know, that plays a big part.
Yeah.
Oh, Leon you done messed us up, but
Yeah.
Dave, you done messed it up. It's about to open a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
How important is it for him to eat first? Oh man, Dave.
That's solid.
Woo! Even if it wasn't my kids, always, no matter if their kids are mine or not, they always come first with me.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, you know, but like you said, like Dave said, they have different religions. Sometimes the mama eat first before everybody. You know, it's just different religions.
Yeah.
But the kids, I don't know, if it's not my kid or anybody else's kid, the kids always eat first.
Wow.
That's how it should be.
Even
That's how it should be.
If Dave's son was at an ice cream truck, I'll buy Dave's son some ice cream. That's just the type of person. You know, I bought whole kids at the park ice cream. I was broke. I was broke buying ice cream at the ice cream truck for kids. Other kids I don't even know. So.
Yeah.
Kids, I don't know. Kids always.
That's the type of person you are. You know, that boils down to the individual. You know, a lot of men don't assume that nurture role. You know, they you know
they'll say, well, let the other nigga feed this baby and blah blah blah. You know how they do.
Yeah, man. It get real technical.
That ain't my child. Let his daddy feed him, and you know that's how they go like that. You know
that ideology, man, is what's keeping the kids. You know, keeping the kids stagnant. You know, when but then again, I know the women do the best they can to try to bring positive influences around the kids, but sometimes like even we were discussing.
I'm sorry, Dave.
No, I was just saying, as far as sometimes the women they do their best to try to bring a positive influence around the kids, but sometimes you really don't know, you really don't know until those certain situations approach, and then you'll figure out what type of individual he is by how he handles that situation.
Correct.
I like what he said about understanding your role as a provider and as a man, as what you bring to the table, and that your position of when you eat does not dictate who you are, but you know that you are a provider. And I think that's very important, like you said, for a man to realize how he shows up in that household, whether those children are his or not, is for him to feel to assume that role, because some men don't want that role. They're just there for the wife, for the woman. They really would like the kids to be out the way. And so it has to be, you have to be very careful as to what he's asking on the front end and what the dictation is of what he needs when there's children involved, right? So it depends on how he shows up as a man to decide, like, what do I need to validate my manhood in this relationship, when in all actuality, that's what you show up as. There's nothing I should do as a woman that validates your manhood. Now, I can add to it. Like, I've always been weary about somebody that tells me I make them happy or I need you, because no, that scares me. You don't need anybody. Nobody is responsible for making you anything. Like, somebody can't make you angry and somebody can't make you happy. We have to start showing up as whole people, because that's why these relationships are so broken. People are looking for other people to complete them, and they need all of this validation. And maybe eating first is one of those validations in order for them to feel like the man of the house or a whole man. So it starts with doing your work, your inner work, healing. For what is it that you are broken from, so that you don't need all of these validations. So when you show up to the table, you are bringing something to the table and not taking away.
I think that's really solid. But responding to you and Dave, stepchildren in a household can very well make or break what a man feels about himself. And it's just unfortunate that everybody don't know how important it is for them to create that foundation for self. A lot of people don't. A lot of people come from homes where they were never validated. A lot of people have lives where they were never validated. And I don't even know that we ever really asked, like we talked about earlier, Mia, that we ever really asked the proper questions. Like, what would make you feel satisfied, and like what really does make you happy as the whole person? And truthfully, somebody asked me that about 10, 12 years ago. What do you like? Like, what makes you happy? And at the time, I didn't really know, because I was this homebody. And I just really enjoyed being at my house. Not ever enjoyed going anywhere. Didn't really know what that was really like to be hanging out anywhere. So what do you mean, what makes me happy? Overall, I'm a genuinely happy person, unless the bug is mad. Just as passionate as I am about being happy, I am super passionate about being upset in the moment. So I think sometimes we get into these relationships, most people don't even know their love language. Most people don't understand that term. They don't know that there's something else that they don't realize that it's something else that they're seeking that they really can find within. So it is going to come those moments where women are in relationships, and a lot of times they're going to be torn between those two poles, because she's tired of moving on. She met this guy, he seemed to have been okay, and all of a sudden he shows his horns, and he's a goddamn fool. Or he just needs these very simple things to feel validated. And if that's the one thing she could do to make him feel validated, like me, I don't need him to tell me that makes him feel validated. For me, I'm gonna feed him first because I feel like he's a man. Has nothing to do with him fathering my children. Now, that's what makes him feel satisfied in his psyche. That's totally on him. But maybe we should ask a few more questions along the way. But I think that I think a lot of the who he's first comes an issue because by nature we're taught that everything's relevant. And I think people are accustomed to that. Because the child eating, as long as there's enough food, why does it matter that he doesn't get his food first if you know he's gonna eat? Why does it matter? In some people's homes, like I get it that children eat first, I get all of that. But it might not be important for someone else as it is for us, particularly. You know, if I'm in my household, if I'm in here cooking and someone shows up, we gotta split that food another way. That's my household. My man is always gonna eat first, but that guest is gonna eat too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm like that with everything. If there's not enough for all, then there's not enough for one. It's all or none, you know, for me. If we're here and my children want snacks and there's 12 children in there, you know what I tell them? Do you have enough snacks for everybody? If you give 12 people a bag of chips out of a 30-bag pack, you ain't gonna have much left. So if you decide that you do want this snack, just know there's gonna be less 12 bags for you to have the snack on for another day. So that's the way I think. You know, in a full jest of it all, but I don't always think about it as a drought. So for me to be the one that feeds the mate first is not that big of a deal, whether he's the father or he's not, unless he's a stupid ass son of a gun, because we do have some of those guys, and then he don't get his damn food first because he's an asshole. But generally, I'm gonna feed him first.
First wife, first husband.
I
say first husband. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. So, he was an idiot. So that makes perfect sense. So now you teaching them a lesson for being an asshole because there was enough food for all of us anyway. But you know, those people who feel less than are gonna have those type of issues. So that was really solid. That was really solid. So some of our people were commenting on this, so I'm gonna read from this. My Uncle Tyrone is back, and he says, in relationships, we mirror each other based on our inner personalities. So if reverence and honor was in that man or woman when you first met him, will be there during the relationship. In other words, being selfish doesn't show out of the blue. We bring it in the atmosphere of the relationship, and it is known by the actions of our character. And then Kay Michelle said, I would have been perplexed too. I guess she was talking to me. And then Arthur said, I think my woman should eat first. That's how he feels because that's his lady. But then that goes to say that's how women are about their men. So I thought that was really solid. And Kay Michelle say, for me, well, I ration the food. It's natural for me to fix my man's plate first. The kids' plates will follow. However, I'll serve my man. 9 times out of 10, if we are sitting and eating together, the kids probably won't even be hungry and will eat and will want their plate wrapped up for them a little bit later. She also returned to say that some men enjoy you taking interest in what they like. So she's agreeing with you, Mia. She says simply watching sports with them. So that was pretty cool. And at some point, Patricia came on and she said, I agree. This is the person that actually got on somehow with the live that we're on. And so the people are watching, and when we come to Talk Tuesdays, you just never know whose moment or whose lives we're gonna liberate. So I really do appreciate you guys for coming on and taking this time out of your busy schedules to be here, because you're here for us as a group, but we're also here for the people who are out there watching. So that's all the comments we have. So you guys can come back and talk more if you want to take the floor.
Good night. I'm just sorry I'm late. Sorry I was late.
Yeah.
It's okay, Dave. It's okay. I knew you was coming too. And
Yeah,
Leon, thank you so much. So what I
yeah,
do sometimes is I'll post this question, a question on Facebook, and based
yeah.
on people that answer, I reach out to them and say, "Hey, you want to come on?" So
Right.
Leon, this is my first time meeting him. I'm meeting him with you guys all in one. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll come on to the panel." So I'm grateful. We're very grateful for you to do this, not knowing any of us or not knowing me particularly, to come on and give your ideology on this topic, because there's a lot of people out here suffering with these types of situations because they don't really know how to deal. They don't really know how to deal. A lot of it is am I right or wrong? And I think a lot of things aren't necessarily right or wrong. I think there comes a good and a bad in the situation, but I think we spend a lot of our time kind of judging people and the situations in which they and how they deal with them. So I think it makes a lot of people afraid of this,
Yeah.
these of coming to be open about their feelings and the things that they're dealing with, because a lot of women are dealing with that. And Dave, that comment that you made about whether or not those children are his, there are a lot of women that are suffering in that area, and we might have to do a talk Tuesday on that topic of how do you deal with him when he don't want to deal with the children that you already have.
You got to go, honey. He got to go.
And a
I'm
lot of people
sorry.
don't know how to
Kids
let
come.
go.
The kids. I mean, for the relationship, kids first. Kids is number one. Kids number one.
Well,
Kids is number one. No matter if
you're
they're
gonna open
yours.
up a can with that topic there, boy.
Wait, what you said, Leon? I can't hear you.
I say
He
the
said
kids are
children are number one.
The kids are number one. Always.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I
Even
There's not a lot of
even
people that
step
think
kids.
like that.
I
Even
do
step
think
kids.
I do think is statistically speaking, if I was a statistician and I put on my statistician hat right now, we got 3 people saying the kids eat first, and we still got the other 2 like my man eat first, so statistically speaking, it looks like the kids eating first is winning. But I think it is definitely a robust conversation. It is something that will probably be here long after we're gone. But I stand by my position. I understand about the reasons why, but I think if we truly ask why, you will find out him eating first is not validating anything that you believe it's validating. It's just for your own purposes. So when we really dig deep and we're really interested in finding out what our mate's needs and wants are from their mouths, not our assumptions, then we are intentionally in a relationship. We're not just going off of what times past has gotten us through. When you sit down, you have a true conversation moving forward of what are the expectations, what do we want to accomplish in this relationship. We got to start having some real grown-up conversation.
Right.
Long is gone. This patty cake. We're not in middle school no more. Well, do you like me? You hit check yes or no. Do you, like these have to be real conversations.
Right.
Going in life, what you trying to yell? When you trying to go in life situations, not for the moment, life,
Right. Well, I don't think I'm not saying that anybody's wrong. I think everybody does what makes them feel satisfied. My man plate gonna fix first,
My man
and
Yeah,
play
better
gonna
not
fix
he
nobody
gonna
first.
cheat
take care of
his
the
ass.
man first.
Huh?
Yeah.
But listen, like I said, the my plate will be fixed first, but it's on
Right.
me to make sure that my kids eat. You know what I mean?
Right.
But but it was different in my house because when the food getting cooked, my grandpa used to be sitting at the table waiting. you know,
Oh.
he's sitting at the
Mine did
table waiting
too.
for his food. So
Mine did too. I've lived both lives. I've lived both lives. My
Yeah.
kids ate first when I was like I said, when I was much younger in my first marriage, my kids ate first. I felt just like how Dave feel. But things changed for me when in my second marriage.
Okay.
And my husband doesn't require that at all. He doesn't. He really wouldn't even care. But he eats
Right.
first. His food is fits
Right.
first. He's been working all day. He got to eat. These kids been
Okay.
home all day looking
So
at
I
me.
got a
Yeah,
question.
like,
Got a
Sure,
question.
sure.
the
So,
kids,
so you
kids
say
might be
so
home
the
all day
first
and you might be
so
at
the
work,
first
or you
one
might be
Hold,
home
hold
all
wants
on,
to
day.
make
Leon.
sure the
Uh-oh.
kids eat first.
Uh-oh.
Uh,
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm
Dave
sorry.
was
Leon talking?
Dave was talking. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine, Leon.
No, I was just asking Tawana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you said the first marriage you would make sure the kids eat first.
Yes, sir.
And the second marriage, like you said, he doesn't mind, or it wouldn't matter to him, but you make sure that
Absolutely.
he eats first.
Absolutely.
So okay, I can respect both decisions. I
Right.
just want to know, was it the difference in the man that you
Yes, sir.
that you difference in the man, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so so the first man was lacking what that didn't, as far as how you feel with making sure the first man, that he didn't work hard, he didn't go out and work hard all day, or
No, he didn't. He
okay,
didn't.
so I can definitely respect that. So it's the occupation at this point, being that the man
Uh,
go out, work hard for the money, come home, you gonna make sure you eat good.
and it's not the
That's
occupation. To
that's right.
me, I think it's the fact that when he leaves this house, he going to make
Hmm.
sure that this house is taken care of by the time he
Okay.
clock out the night. So I got to
Right.
make sure he taken care of when he get home. You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? My first husband, he went with that. He did what he did. He
Mm,
did, Then he came home.
mm,
Well, here you go. There you go. Here
mm.
go this. Eat that. Me and my children already ate. So it was
Okay.
like that. But
Okay.
here,
Okay. Okay.
when my husband leave this house, he go to work to make sure this house is taken care of. And
Right.
so I got to make sure he's taken care of. And and
Okay.
I, and then when you know that for a fact, sometimes we don't know. We like, child,
Right.
please, he might be. No, if
Sometimes
you
you
know when
thinking.
he taking care of the house, you know when he
Right.
taking care of the house and when he not. So when you
Okay.
know that, you take care of him.
right.
That's all. That's it.
Mm,
It's
I
that
like
mm.
simple.
that.
Interesting. Interesting.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
No
I
problem.
appreciate that.
No problem.
But
But
see,
my
because I'm
children
a
eat.
firm believer of, but I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm a firm
No, you're
believer
fine.
of like I mean, like you said, it wasn't the occupation, it
Hmm.
was the fact that you had that assurance in the second man, and you had that confidence in that when he go out, he coming home, he going out for the house. You
Right.
didn't feel like that with the first one.
No.
So
Mm.
so I can respect that. I can respect, see, and that's why I can appreciate a woman bringing the best out of a man, and also a man bringing the best out of a woman. Sometimes a man don't deserve to have that laid out for him like that. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
that's true.
Even if it is your wife, man, like I mean, you married the woman. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, if you ain't totally committed to that situation and taking care of that situation holistically,
Come
you
on
shouldn't have
now.
married her. You shouldn't have
That's the
married her.
truth.
You shouldn't have
That's
married
the
her.
truth.
I get
You know
back
what I
there.
mean? But man, I can appreciate that perspective, man. You get out what you put in, and
That's
and
it.
as a man, you got to be able to respect that.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it.
you can't expect to have Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works smelling good and plate laid out for you and all that. If she
You
feel
ain't
like,
doing
you know, when you step out the house, you're not stepping out with the right intentions, with this
Absolutely.
house valued first. You know what I mean? So I respect that.
Absolutely.
I respect that.
Absolutely.
I can accept
Yes,
that.
sir. Thank you.
I just want to know, like, what changed?
Uh-oh.
Why the first man ain't get the home cooked laid out?
He ain't deserved it. He would have
He
kept
ain't
doing the
deserving
same
it.
thing.
Period, point
He would
blank.
have kept doing the same thing. He would have thought that he was supposed to do that because I'm here laying plates out and, like you say, smelling like Victoria's Secrets and doing the things that a wife should do when you ain't doing what you're supposed to do.
But did he
We got
have
to
it
make
like
this
that in the
house a
beginning?
home.
Did he have it
Yes,
like
he
that
did.
in the
Oh, yes,
okay?
sir. Yes, he did. Oh, for sure.
That's what they say. If you treat a woman how you used to treat her when you first met her, then you
That's how you
good.
should keep treating. Mhm.
Treat her how you treated her when you first met her.
When you got her. That's it.
Yeah,
While you got her for all them years, you need to keep
That's
treating her
it.
like that. Yeah,
yeah. Leon,
Absolutely.
that's
you
why
were
I
gonna
try
say
not to change.
something
I
to
try
us.
to be the same person. You
Yeah,
know,
That's it.
sometimes
Leon, you was
people
gonna
can
say
change.
something to us.
I don't know.
What,
I
Mr.
forgot. I was all
Oh
in.
my
I
gosh,
was
I'm
listening to
sorry.
Dave. No, that's
My
okay.
bad, Leon. I ain't
That's
mean to
okay.
cut you off,
But
bro.
no, you know, I came in. I had lost contact. I couldn't see nobody. I had to come back up on my fingers. I don't know. But no, it's
Yeah, I
good.
was looking like, what happened to him? Okay.
But like I say, some couples they wait till everybody come home and have something to eat, no matter what. Nobody
That's
Yeah,
true.
eating until everybody in the house. You
Yeah.
know,
that's so
like I
true.
said, it's all kind of ways. You know how it is.
Yeah,
And you know, people make the assumption that, you know, like based on you, right? Because I'm Haitian, so my culture is very male centric,
Oh yeah,
male
oh yeah,
centered.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
so
All around the
for
man.
me to have
Yes.
an opposing view, I am the complete opposite. I did watch my mom feed my we ate at the table, so that was a requirement. But you know, like you said, my dad's plate was to the top. But
Yeah.
I also witnessed that with him getting all of that, it still didn't validate nor necessarily keep him in the marriage. Like he still stepped out. Like he was who he was,
Yeah.
regardless of what she did. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
that led me to always make the clear distinction
Mhm.
between the fact that you're in this because you want to be, not because of what I do for you.
That's
right.
true.
Because at the end of the day, if I stop doing, will then that end your love? Like, is it always contingent? And you know, sometimes that
mm,
happens with relationships, that is contingent upon what she does for
What
me.
she do?
And
Yeah,
so that's not unconditional. So
That's
a
true.
lot of these women that are dealing with these men that have all of these requirements is because they don't necessarily like you. They like what you do for them.
she do. Yeah,
And so it's very important to kind of realize that on the front end, because you have the little signs at the beginning, but we make
Yeah.
excuses for
Yes, we
them.
do.
And we say, oh, well, he's a good guy. Anytime you have to find yourself making an excuse, that's a red flag.
A big one. Absolutely. Well, Mia, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why do you feel like your children should eat first?
I mean, it goes back to the fact that I believe that they are my first assignment, right? That they come into this world empty vessels. Like whatever I do at 100% impacts who they become as adults. 100%. My spouse was in this world before me. Like the connection that we have was after the fact. You know what I mean? Like he had some preconceived, pre-existing baggage, personalities that came before me. But these vessels are clean slates, right? So everything that I want to impart in them, I have the opportunity to model for them how they should show up in the world. And so I don't think that me prioritizing my husband is something that I should force in their face. That is just something that they see, right? And our love and our interaction, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like, oh no, you know, because some people feel like they have to make this bold statement. But if I am modeling for them what love is in a relationship, the cohesion, the partnership, where we are working together and where they see, yes, sometimes he'll come home and cook and lay the table out. You know what I'm saying? That there's a balance. So I am imparting in them everything that I want for them in their relationship, because I know I got a clean slate with these, right? So my husband, you know, it's kind of like a learning curve. You have to kind of just, you have to kind of learn as you go when you partner with somebody. Like that take a lot of, you know, push and tug. And so they didn't ask to be come into this situation. They didn't ask to join this tangle web.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I keep them out of it.
Exactly.
I have a question for you, Mia. I have a question for Mia. You said something that made me think that your rebellion against what you didn't want to do, your why factor that you called it earlier, was it because of the way that you feel your dad made your mom feel? So you knew without a shadow of a doubt that you wouldn't be this person that gave even when nothing else. Like, did you determine that as a child because of what you saw?
Right. Well, it's not that I determined that I wouldn't do this because of what I saw my mom experience, because like I said, because culturally, I'm like a homemaker. Like I love being a mother, right? So I am going to do those motherly things. You know, I love cooking. I'm the weird person that like laundry. Like, don't touch the laundry. I want to do all the laundry. I want to fold the laundry. I love the way the fabric softener smells. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't lose any of that matrix, that sense of motherhood, and minimize it because I felt somebody was unworthy, because I embody that. So my role doesn't change regardless of what you're bringing to the table, because I know who I am when I show up. You know what I mean? Does it give me reservation? Yeah, I might be a little more reserved. Like the first time I cooked for you, you know, wait, it's been 6 months yet. You're not eating none of my food. You know what I mean? Like it might show up like that, where I start to put like, you know, you got to go through this level system, but I'm going to show up a whole Susie homemaker.
Okay.
And I know it kind of contradicts to like come with a statement, but it's just that I believe that you kind of show up how you're supposed to be. I just get uncomfortable when somebody needs that validation, and I can't do needy people. I can't. My children need me, because if I'm not here, they can't eat. In my absence, they go to the state. You know what I mean? They need me. Your girl behind don't need me. You want me. We complement each other. We make a great team, but them children need me. I need to feed them, because if I don't feed them, they don't eat.
That's true. That's true. I agree.
Okay.
I feel like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Bushy.
No, you go. You go ahead. You go.
I feel like as women, and to the right male, that we're just naturally submissive. And that may be the reason that we do fix the plate. Like I said, my husband do the same. When he cook, like I say, 80% of the time. And he put my food right on the table too.
Well, you got it good, right?
It's all right. It's all right.
You got it real, boy.
Girl, you need to put your prayer list on the screen, because you pray for that one, honey.
I'm gonna show you what I did. I'm gonna show you. But no. But we are naturally submissive. Do you think that's the reason that we feel that our male has to sit at the front of the table if he's worthy and eat first? Do you think so?
You see me going off screen.
That's
I don't see no submissiveness in you at all, and I'm trying to find it. I want to see it. I'm thinking it's in your crown somewhere, and you won't take it out. Can I get some? Can you show me, please, your submissiveness?
Oh,
I don't see any of it. I'm just saying,
Under the
I
right
am, and
conditions,
I
it's
want to
probably
be
the-
submissive. Don't you want to be submissive?
Y'all
sorry.
want
Mia, Mia off the screen. Mia, slide out to the screen. Hey.
I love you, Mel. You're beautiful.
Yes, you are. We love you, Mia.
Oh my gosh. Girl, that's a whole nother show about the submission.
Okay,
That's a
we'll come back
whole
next
nother
week.
thing.
We'll
We
come back next
definitely
week.
coming back on that
Another
one.
hour.
Can we come back next week? We'll come back.
We gotta come back. We gotta come back on Tuesday on that one.
Yes, sir,
that'll
Mr.
be a
Leon.
good topic. That'll be a
We
really
gotta
good
do.
topic.
Yeah,
I'm
that'll be a
sorry.
really good topic.
Okay.
Well, you
I'm
can
gonna
just
get some
put the
notes
verse
for
on the
that.
screen. Women, submit yourself to your husband. Just put that verse out there and see, because you will definitely get a whole
Boy,
bunch of
hey.
feedback.
Ooh.
And I
Some of
love
them
it.
boys would
I
be
love it.
surprised.
Because it's no wrong answer for nothing. Nobody's wrong here.
Some of them boys would be surprised, boy. They'll think they got a submissive. They'll think they wife submissive. She'll tell you otherwise.
But she
Yeah.
wants to be, though, Dave.
But
She wants to be.
like you said, she
Yes.
wants to be naturally. She wants to
'Cause
be
it's
led
in
in the
us.
right direction.
Right. It's in
I
us.
don't know if it's submissive. They just want the right leadership.
Right. So
That's it.
I think
Lead
like
by
you said,
example.
roles,
That's it.
right? Like
Mhm.
we grow up seeing roles. We see, those gender specific and assigned roles that
Mhm.
we are taught, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Going
Traditionally.
back to the teaching, tell me
Yes,
the
ma'am.
why before you tell
Mhm.
me what I have to do. So when you talk about gender specific roles, like I don't mind us, like women appearing to be submissive. The problem becomes when it is an expectation
No.
that
Yeah.
this is the role that I should play in a relationship. And unfortunately, a lot of men may feel that they need that to validate their position as men in the relationship. And so that becomes difficult because I can't make you feel like a man. You know what I mean? Like that is like that journey to Mecca. Like you need to go sit with God, in order for you to
Absolutely.
get
Go to
that.
Mecca.
And if you're
You got to
looking
go to
for
Mecca.
that at something
Amen.
physical, then you're gonna be waiting for a long time because I don't have it for you. Like I have been charged with not being vulnerable. Like I was in the military. I was out there lawn mowing. Like anything I need to do, or I ask you to do it, you don't do it. I'm gonna just go ahead and take care of it myself. Like you know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like
ma'am.
I might not be the right one to talk to.
You knew I knew that before I asked you that. You knew I knew that before I asked you, but I just wanted to hear your answer still. And I
But
loved
it's
it
weird
regardless.
because I am the person that'll come home. I cook every
Yes.
day. Like I
I
love
believe
to
it.
cook. We are going to eat dinner. I wash. I cook. I clean. But I'm not gonna. You're not gonna know that about me until you've graduated to that level.
Absolutely, lady.
Right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
You
That
gotta
is a
deserve
prize.
it.
Yes, deserving.
Yeah.
I agree.
I actually really love this conversation because originally when I came with this, when the topic was a request, I never kind of seen that we would go to this extent. So I think it's actually really amazing because I think a lot of people don't really realize how much all of these things that we do in relationships and life kind of ties into ourselves and the way that we deal with things, because it all ties back, I can't wait to come back to Talk Tuesdays with this whole submission conversation and other things too, led from like something Dave said a little bit earlier about those outside children being in that situationship or whatever. I think a lot of submission for women is comes from vulnerability. And I think that it always is taught to us that we're looking and seeking for that man to actually be that provider for us. So I think what happens in a lot of us when we find that we come up short in that expectation of them, we begin to realize how much that we need to be strong for ourselves and our children. So their vulnerability kind of changes its position. Um, and so we will talk about that at a little later date. So we have been on for a while, and I appreciate all the people out there who's been coming, who's on with us and who has stayed with us and who's listening to this broadcast, because it is very vital to Talk Tuesdays that we have the people on the panel. So I'm going to give the panel the floor to give their closing statements. And yeah, so I guess we can start. We can start with Mr. Leon, since we've heard the least from you. What are your closing statements on this topic?
Well, first of all, I can't really get into the relationship because I ain't in no relationship, and I can't get into no kids because I don't have no kids. But I can respect kids. I guess that's why I love them so much, because I don't have any. But I always say that a lot of guys don't like taking care of other women kids if it ain't their kids, because they have kids. So I can't really, some with the kids in the relationship, I can't really answer. I just get some of the knowledge and experience that I've been through in the past relationships. So
Okay. Respect.
But
That's a whole nother conversation too, Bathsheba. He ain't have no kids. He ain't married. How old are you, Leon?
47.
They told me don't shake no hand to no man that ain't been married, don't have no children.
I'm writing this stuff down too. What is
Leon said you can shake my hand. They lied. They lied.
I can't.
I'm just kidding, Leon. It was a show or something.
They lied, right, Leon? They lied.
Yeah.
You might have some commitment issues. You have commitment issues, Leon. Oh, we gotta talk about this one.
Nah, well, I used to. I mean, the relationship that lasts, well, the friendship I had, it didn't last long. But I used to take care of 3 kids, and she told me I was trying too hard, and I don't know. The kids love me. This is what I always say. This is what I always say. When a woman go tell her man to go meet their mama, if their mama don't like you, she gonna marry you. If right now, if a woman want me to meet her mama and her mama don't like me, she gonna marry me. If the mama like me, we ain't gonna be together long.
Oh, that's another topic, Bathsheba. We just letting them out. You got topics for the whole month, maybe till the end of 2020.
Nah, I always say this. If I had a lady friend, the kids love me to death. Now, if them kids didn't love me or didn't like me, she would have put them kids to the side and said, well, you need to get to know Mr. Leon, because he's going to be your stepdaddy one day. But now, since the kids like me, then that goes, oh, he like my kids like him. That's dangerous. So I don't know.
Maybe you're in her way. Maybe the children are in her way that they like you. Because women, just like men, have had broken homes and come from places where they weren't important either.
Right,
so
during
that
the quarantine.
Could be an issue.
Right, during the quarantine, I went there and I bought bread. I bought food for the whole family, the kids. And she told me I bought too much bread. I bought too much food. So it kind of hurt my feelings. She couldn't tell me that. She could have got the bread and gave it to her neighbors. She said it in my face. So it was kind of like a throw. She told me I was trying too hard. Yeah. So I left. I walked away. So,
Yeah.
I thought we had a relationship. But I don't know what happened.
Wow. Yeah. So that might be some of her own reservations.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Those might be some of her own reservations.
Right.
Wow.
Now, Mia, why you won't shake my hand?
Hey, drop the mic.
I'm gonna have to dig deep on that one, because
that's a bad thing. Well, I guess I guess they say with a man that ain't got no kids and married, he might be toxic. He might be bad.
Not toxic, just that she
Well,
might have some
no.
commitment issues in the back of that table, underneath
Hmm.
that carpet.
I'm just a plain nice guy. I guess one thing women don't like real nice guys, and if I was mean and shit, I'd probably be married right now. But I'm just old me.
She like a
I
rough around the
Mm,
edges.
I think
I
you
might
gotta
have to, I
choose
might have to,
wisely,
I might have to
Leon.
call you
I
to
have no
my
issue.
couch.
I
I don't
mean,
know about
Mia,
that.
anything you want to ask me, you ask me is straight. I'll tell you straight. I ain't got nothing to lie about. If you want to ask me,
So you've never been married and you don't have any children. And you're 40 what?
7.
7,
47, almost 50.
right?
Okay. So how was your relationship with your mother?
Well, mother, she was on drugs. She moved to New York in '94, and she died in 2003.
Right. So that initial bonding of what you would have experienced with a woman, that first love, how was that for you? Because sometimes, because grassroots, everything that we are, like I said, as children, everything that we are experienced and directly correlated to our relationship with our parents. So
Right.
you might not even realize that you have that block going on, because had you ever experienced that first love? Because that's your first representation of what a woman, what she gives to you is what your mother would have given to you. So how was your
I've been
relationship with her
I've,
prior to her
I've been in a
departure?
relationship. The last relationship that I've been in 5 years. She came to move in with me. My grandma and my dad, they lived in this house and they died. So they left me the house. Well, they ain't left me the house. They left me in the house. So I took over it. There's a difference between leaving your house and leaving you in the
Yeah.
house. So, I mean, she stayed with me for 5 years, but she liked it. The Victoria's Secret, she had a bag full of, I don't know. I don't know.
We're
She
gonna
just
talk
had
offline, Leon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So
Can
don't
I
don't
join?
don't log off when we finish. Don't log off when we finish, so that you and Mia can get that connection, so that maybe she can help you work through some of those things. So that's great. I'm glad you guys can make that connection. So Dave, what are your closing remarks to the audience?
As I
Follow.
stated earlier, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
yeah.
Okay. Well, as I stated earlier, it's a it's a rough dynamic because I guess this is another topic. I'm not gonna say I'm neutral because of my actions, but I can understand the woman's perspective from wanting to make sure the male eats first. Okay, so I'm definitely not against that. But my perspective of it, as I said, me being the provider, I want to make sure that my son is going to eat first, and that the kids going to eat first. And as I said, my plate can be made, set aside, but I'm still going to make sure, and even if my son doesn't want to eat what's been prepared, I'll still go beyond, and I'll make sure he has what he wants to eat. So, I just, from my perspective, like I said, I'm gonna make sure that my son and the kids gonna eat first in my presence.
Yes. Nothing wrong with that.
I love it. Tawana.
Well, I'm gonna stand solid. So, and it's and like I said, it's only because of how I'm living at the moment. And my husband is the same. We don't, and my kids aren't lacking, as we said before about the drought situation. I think we were like that because we felt like it wasn't enough food in the house back in the day. But these days, it's enough food in the house. The kids gonna eat. So my husband plate gonna get first, and that's just, and it's gonna be big, and it's still gonna be enough food. And if somebody knock on my door, like Bathsheba said, it's enough food for them too. I cook enough food. We cook enough food for everybody. But
They even have leftovers. Leftovers too, huh?
I'm always have leftovers. It get on my nerves because the children ain't gonna eat it the next day. But my husband will. But my husband gonna eat first in this house. In this house, he gonna eat first. And that's I'm gonna leave with that. Go ahead, Dave.
You want one more thing, Dave? We can't hear you.
You got to unmute.
Yeah, you got it on mute.
Okay, I got one more question before Mia close it out. Now, Tawana, let me ask you this. Now, if your system changed in your house, if your system changed, okay, I'm gonna give you two scenarios and I want you to respond.
Okay.
If the system changed as far as you're feeling with your husband, if his emotions and his actions change as far as how you feel, how he goes home and how he comes back home and how he delivers, would that change your actions?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. The second one.
And two, hold on, I forgot the second one. Go ahead and just
Oh
kill the
man,
first
I'm
one.
sorry. I thought you was ready for me to answer. I'm sorry. The reason why I don't think it'll change the way I feel is because I'm one that's gonna speak to you. We communicate. I want to know why whatever's changing is changing. And maybe I believe in we being all human. Things happen. He might not be attracted to me no more. I don't know. But
right.
Can we make sure the household is being taken care of at the moment while we work out whatever it is we got to work out? Don't nothing have to change. The children don't have to see us go through nothing crazy because we all human. Things happen. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, we are human. We sometimes we do things that we know we shouldn't do, but we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna come to you with an open heart, open mind. But ain't nothing gonna change. You still gonna sit at the table. Long as you doing what you're supposed to do, you still gonna sit at the table. Ain't nothing gonna change. But I'm not young. I'm Leon age. Me and Leon the same age.
Yeah, get on board, man.
You know what I'm saying? But a woman ain't gonna tell her age, but I'm just gonna let y'all know.
All the games and craziness,
Yeah, I don't got time for that anymore. I'm beyond that. So as long as you married to me, you gonna come home and sit at that table.
I know that's right.
That's that.
I can appreciate that.
Yes, sir. All right, Miss Mia.
See, Mia is over there preparing
what she got? Please.
Children.
I love you, Mia.
I thought she was over there preparing a report because when everybody goes talking, I'm looking at her.
Oh man.
Mia.
Closing statement.
Mama Mia.
Mama Mia.
So I think it's just very important. Hold on, I have a crying child. I think it's just very important for us to go back to, I'm going to go back to my initial statement of saying that let's have the conversation of what he needs. What is the need as it relates to how your love tank is filled? Because, we want to make sure that we are intentional in our relationships, right? And making sure that we hear the other person and we're showing up together, right? So one person is not responsible for the well-being and the happiness of the other person, but that we are both contributing to this system of care, of love, of admiration, of growth. So it's about the conversation. It goes back to the conversation, because if in your household, you sit down, you talk, and he was like, honey, and so that would fall under the category of acts of service. So you feeding him first would fall under acts of service, of where he feels when you do things for him that makes him feel love. So that may very well be something that's contributing to their love language. Just making sure that that is not the primary thing that you're doing, because those 5 love languages are constantly fluctuating, right? And like you said, Tawana, it does change, you know, based on your relationship. Your love language might change. So it's just very important for you to know your spouses, your significant other, all relationships in all actuality. Give them that love language, because sometimes we are missing each other. We are constantly going, that we don't take the time and just talk to each other and find out from your mouth, what do you need? When do you feel most valued? What are the things that sustain you? And so that your partner can contribute to that. So I'm just going to leave it at, make sure you have that conversation as to what is important to that significant other, so that you're not giving them what you think they want and need. And in actuality, you actually know for sure. And so at the end of the week, that love tank is full, honey, and everything is going down, because you have 2 very happy people, bountiful people, constantly filling each other up and speaking each other's love language. So let's just commit to having the conversation. You would be surprised that you might be doing more work than you have to. You might just need to sit on the couch and just watch sports. But like, and he like, woo, because he's quality time. So have the conversation. And
thank you all so much. This is as we are, I love Talk Tuesdays, and I tend to learn a lot when we all come together on Talk Tuesdays, because there's a lot of perspective outside of our own that we just never stop to think about. Who eats first, for me, always kind of was a dreaded conversation. I never really would get on those long text message, you know, those what you call the replies on Facebook, because I just watched what other people had to say. And I know that as a culture, and I think as people, we tend to think about all the droughts of life and how things that are always missing. And sometimes we always feel behind the 8 ball. Like, I myself am one of those people that I tend to overshop for things that I've once droughted. I don't like running out of tissue. I'm really big on that. I don't like running out of cleaning supplies. I'm really big on that. I also really don't like running out of food. So I might always buy something that I would always keep in the freezer, that I'm always able to provide a meal for my household. For me, my husband eats first because I enjoyed to watch my mother care for my father that way. So a lot of times, it might not even necessarily, it might just be something that I've done without ever thinking about it. But when the question was posed to me, I was like, well, I feed my man first. It has nothing to do with him being the children's father or him just being my mate. Because at the end of the day, if he's not good enough, I shouldn't probably be with him to begin with, rather than to choose his deserving of anything that I have to provide for him. When I'm in my marriage, when I got to that place where I no longer wanted to give my husband what I always had given him, I told him I was done, because I feel like I was doing him a disservice by asking him to be someone he was incapable of being. So I think communication is one of the biggest things that most people lack. And a lot of it is because most people don't know how to communicate. I was actually looking for the book, because I keep a list of books right here by me, and the 5 love languages must be out in my books on my bookshelf in the living room area, because I wanted to show everyone what that book looked like, so that if they was trying to maybe find it, that they could look for it. Because I think sometimes just the things that we don't give enough account to are the things that we're missing out on. And it's that one thing that we need to do better about. And it's unfortunate that our relationships can struggle like that, whether it's with our children or it is with our mates. So I hope that more of us are learning to communicate a little bit better, so that we're able to do or say those things that are well needed to be said, or find out the things that we need not to do in a relationship as well. Some of us are going to feed that man first. It doesn't make anyone else bad because they don't. And it doesn't make the people that feed their man first look bad because they do. It's just a matter of whatever the satisfaction is for that individual, and hopefully the love language for that man, and that's how he feel. Everybody bodies needs nourishment. So hopefully in your family you found that missing dynamic, and maybe you can fulfill that role in your family's life. I always appreciate those who come on to sit with us. So Mia, Tawana, Leon, and Dave, I appreciate you guys more than you could ever imagine, because we can't have Talk Tuesdays without the panel. And so we'll be here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. or 7:30, however long it takes our people to come to the panel to talk with you guys. So I hope you learned something from tonight, and that you can take something as nuggets away from this moment. So until we see each other next time, it's Happy Black signing off. Have a great rest of your wonderful evening, Facebook and YouTube.